they are here, but we can talk about that.
Pedometer.
Pedometer, that was something we came up with this morning, that's quite nice.
I think we had some alarms last year, didn't we?
We had alarms.
Light dimmer.
Proximity. Sensor.
And this is beyond what's already on the assignment.
Sorry, say again?
And this is all in addition to what's on the assignment tree?
That was just by way of example, the ones that are on there.
Excellent. There's also a radio receiver transmitter.
Oh, that's a good one.
Meter, bar glass, spectrometer, DC-AC inverter, resonant power system, or any other.
It really is open-ended. It's really down to what would you like to build. We're not concerned with what the build is, we're just concerned with the process. Once you've set yourself a target, can you make it, can you deliver it? Because that's what your employer is going to expect you to do.
An annoying sound generator.
Oh, yeah, I can do that.
Sound generator.
I think the alarms qualified for that.
Oh, just get a sound recording with me on that.
Oh, you could be on that.
Anyone else got any suggestions? I mean, I can. A charger? That's a good one. So, battery charger. Okay, let's keep it coming. Yes, sir.
A rectifier?
A rectifier.
That's the AC to DC.
Yes, you could do. But on sort of a broader one than that, you could rectify our inverter, so we can go both ways. So we go AC to DC or DC to AC. So I'll just put an inverter down there. Inverters are things like getting caravans, so you go from 12 volts to 240 volts, but you probably want to stay below 50 for safety reasons. But an inverter.
Well, IMU kind of it to show the angle of where this point. Could you do that?
From an accelerometer gyro thing? Yes, you could. Yes, you could. So you could take a, an IMU and interface that into some LEDs, or interface it to a microcontroller if you wanted. We're not prohibiting microcontrollers, but just bear in mind that you want to be fairly modest about the type of microcontroller you use. So I'd recommend an AT-Tiny or a SV328 or something like that. So just basically something that's probably dual inline parallel, so a DIP package or something like that.
Power supply. Power supply. That's one
Power
I've seen.
supply,
This
yeah,
is
that's
an
another
obvious
one.
one, isn't it?
So that's another good one. Anyone else got any suggestions? A clock. A clock, that's a good one. It's a bit like the 7-second timer, but yes, a clock is fine.
This gentleman's got a signal generator.
Signal generator? Anybody else got any suggestions? Okay, well that's really what this session is about, so I'd like you to, spend a bit of time thinking about it. Don't just randomly go on there and think, oh, I'll do that one because the guy teaching has said that one. No, do it because you want it. Do it because you want to make something that you end up keeping afterwards. But bear in mind two things. Bear in mind the complexity, that will I be impressed by complexity? To a certain extent, yes. So if it is slightly more complex, I'm going to think that's a slightly bigger undertaking. But you run a very serious risk there that if you take something too complicated, you won't finish it. So really the name of the game here is find something that you know you can deliver in that time scale. Now at the end of it, if it doesn't work, which we saw with some of the photocopiers, this isn't alien, you're not abnormal or anything like that, this is perfectly normal. But the point is what you've learned along the way and what you can describe during that particular process. So with the best will in the world, you take something on, say you try to make a roulette wheel with LEDs or something like that, and you can't get the components. You're not flawed, you can still do some stuff in simulation, you can still describe the different circuits that people have invented to do this, the same kind of thing. You then go into a realm where you describe the design of it in more depth. It doesn't mean to say if it doesn't work, it's a bad thing. It's not a good thing, but if it doesn't work, it's not the end of the world. You can still get a first-class mark if you do it in a structured way, and that's what most students, I don't think, understand. You go hammer and tongs at something, you produce a circuit, it works, that don't mean you get a first class. Because you may have someone who's done something, who's made a mistake somewhere along the line, but they've described what the mistake was. And they've described in depth how they would overcome that mistake and wouldn't make that mistake again. That's critical analysis, and it's one of the things you'll be assessed on in your previous report. How critical can you be of yourself? Recognise your own shortcomings and how you can do better in the future.
In saying it's a time-limited project for 4 weeks, is time management one of those things that you're looking to see demonstrated in the report?
I have in the past seen people put a small Gantt chart in there. It's rather difficult to imagine that you would want to go too far into that, but it might be an idea just to have a timeline, which is nothing more than a straight line over the 4 weeks, and just put in there selected circuit, built prototype in Multisim, tested on breadboard, met deadline for PCB, and then finally attempted to build PCB and ran out of time or something like that. So just some kind of indication of how you've used the time, but that would be, you know, a 1 minute exercise rather than being particularly important to the project.
The thing I was trying to think of was that if in fact you think I haven't got the perfect this and I haven't got the perfect that, is that you don't move on and then those 4 weeks just disappear. So it's a in a sense you've got to set yourself deadlines of where these things are along the way, haven't you? Really?
It's a fair point, yeah. So if you want to introduce some time management, then fine, but I'm not terribly fussed about it.
It's a short project, isn't it?
Yeah, it's a very short project, so it's going to be, you know, the time will be gone before you can consider how you're going to manage your time. But clearly what you are up against here, you've got to select one, attempt to put it together in Multisim and produce your PCB, which actually is the fast part. So you could well find yourself in a position at the end of today, if you've got a circuit diagram, you've drawn it, that you could export that to Altiboard and you'd be in a position to have your PCB made by tea time today. You could, if you chose to do that. But of course the time-consuming bit is trying to get it working and understanding how it works. That's the other part about it as well. Now, you're taking from reference, it's implied. We're not expecting you to design circuits. We're expecting you to do a little search on something you're interested in. Once you've found it, then you use that reference, you put it in your own words, but you describe to me how that circuit works, which is obviously going to be a modification of the description that was there. And that's another thing that you're assessed on, what we saw last week, is your understanding. So how well can you describe to me what's going on? Well, describing the whole circuit is usually pretty much impossible, so what you do is you chop it into 4 or 8 bits or whatever, and you say this part here takes the low frequency noise out, this part here drives the motors, and that's how you do electronics. You find a block, and once you've found the block, then you can work on that block, you can understand the block. And then you join that block to another block. That's what systems is, that's what systems electronics is, which is the department used to be called Electronic Systems Engineering. So in other words, it's about manageable chunks. You look at a big circuit diagram, I haven't got a clue. Mike, you haven't got a clue when you see a whopping great diagram, have you? Steam in there with a pen and you'll draw a circle around it and you think, ah, that's an oscillator. Ah, that's a counter. And that's just how you go about analysing the circuits. Right, does anyone have any questions about that? Because I think it's quite clear what we're trying to do here.
We had to write justification about the utility of the project, the one we have chosen. The utility of
the justification, yeah, that's actually quite a good one. The gentleman there said about the justification of the circuit. Why would you make a circuit that was absolutely useless? Have you seen the most useless machine in the world? Have you seen the most useless machine in the world? You have, you know, don't you? Yeah. Just do a quick YouTube search on the most useless machine in the world. Now, if you could make a most useless machine in the world, that would be quite a good invention. But, yeah, so the justification for Why would you want to make that circuit in the first place? What purpose does it serve? That's obviously a very, very good thing to comment on. Okay? Right, we'll come round and try and help you now, if that's okay.